Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Lee.
And I'm your host, Danny Morley. And today we're going to be talking about remembering who we are. Now, this is something that since I started the work at MSU, whenever I'd be in the healings with Rachel, right at the beginning of class, this would always come up. And I can still hear her words saying, remember the truth of who and what you are. And I really have forgotten. And it's been a long time, lots of work of starting to peel back the layers and dissolve all the layers of what we're not. And it's really hard to remember the truth of what we are, this soul, divine being, having this human experience when we've grown up in the patriarchal separation consciousness world. So all that world, the world that we've grown up in, it layers on all of these programs, and we accumulate all these wounds, and then we have this experience of life as a human being filtered through these programs and wounds which we've accumulated. And when we're completely unaware, we live our life so attached to these wounds and these programs that we actually think that that's who we are. And we're actually, Ellie and I are in a second year class right now, which is causing, especially for me, a massive amount of awakening. We've only had 2 classes of it so far, called Mastering Energetic Detachment. It's a second year class. And it is really allowing me to awaken to a new level of understanding all of this stuff that I've believed about myself. Especially when it comes down to, and in this beginning part of the podcast, I want to talk about this, the worthlessness that I've felt about myself and how I've just believed that to be so true. And I've had, because of the way that the experience that I had when I was brought up, I didn't know any different, you know. It was just the reality of what I felt and experienced as a child, and the feedback that I was getting from my environment, from my kind of caregivers, and especially this was around my dad. He didn't do this intentionally, but from his massive amounts of dissociation and probably trauma that he went through as a kid, of just not being mentally, emotionally, or not being emotionally, not mentally, but emotionally there and really engaged as a fully present father, it led to a lot of deep wounds of feeling very inadequate, and that he didn't want to spend time with me, and that, you know, I wasn't worth his time. And what that led to later on in life is just this constant feeling of being worthless, and that I'm not going to go anywhere, and I'm not worth, you know, other people's time. And there's all these like deep wounds of not, you know, insecurity and not being accepted and all this kind of stuff that would be played out through my life. These were the filters, these were the lenses. And over the last couple of weeks doing this class, and listening to other things that are different podcasts and teachings that are expanding me outside of the common narrative of what we hear about what this world is and reality is, it's allowing me to kind of like have more like cosmic remembrance and remember that I'm here on a far deeper and greater mission. And in that, it's allowing me to show up differently towards myself. So I've been caught in these programs and these patterns and these loops of kind of self-destruction and self-abuse and not really caring for my own self. These were, you know, repeat patterns from childhood. But as I'm starting to dissolve these layers and then actually remember, kind of like feel these ancient feelings, which have always kind of been there, but I've kind of dismissed. And now I'm like, I've always felt this way. Let me feel into what that is. It's allowing me to really realize that maybe I am not worthless. Maybe that is just a program that I've believed about myself. And in that, I'm finding the way that I'm showing up to myself is changing.
And how are you showing up for yourself that's changing?
So the programs and patterns that I've been caught in specifically around this have
Yeah.
been around the things that I struggle with, which is diet. So the food that I've put into my body, the choices I'm making of whether I have a coffee or not, sounds so silly, but there's an addictive element in there with the caffeine. And I can feel that a lot of this energy is tied into the worthlessness. I go into, well, no one's guiding me, well, fuck it, it doesn't matter. Like, let's just do whatever. No one cares. I can just go on this path of destruction. No one's paying attention. My life doesn't matter. I don't matter. Like, this is what's running in there. And as I'm moving through like these deeper layers of remember, like it's like little moments, little things will spark, and I'm like, I kind of feel like I remember certain things from like when I'm listening to things that have maybe happened in the past, and diving into like learning about Atlantis and Lemuria, and it all has like, there's a slight air of like, this could be true. You know, I'm always trying to bring a skeptical mind and question things and not just take things at face value. It's just naturally how I operate. But I'm like, well, maybe, and there's parts of me which I feel like are resonating. And in that, it's allowing me to be like, oh, well, maybe I'm not just a piece of shit after all. Maybe there is other things that I came here, and maybe I did come here on a really big mission, and that's why I'm doing this work now. And it's causing me to not go off the rails, so to speak, as much as I was before. Whereas these programs would start to run because I felt like no one cared. I would just allow myself to completely go off the rails. And now it's like, no, I'm remembering more, I'm caring for myself more. And so it's creating more balance in my system and in my life.
Yeah, so in this class that we're taking, this mastering energetic detachment, one of the things that Rachel's teaching us is real education about what the ego is, right? And so we for a very long time have been taught a lot of things about the ego. And what she teaches us is that the ego is a stream of consciousness. And what it is, it's forgetfulness, right? It's the opposite of remembrance, which is that it's a veil, it's an illusionary veil of separation from what we are, where we came from, the truth of us, right? So what happens is because that ego, that stream of consciousness is flowing through us, in the forgetfulness we attach to all of these programs and we start identifying it with it, and then all those programs become the shadow self, and the shadow self attaches to the ego, right? So when you're talking about, oh well, there's this program of worthlessness that I've completely attached to and I've identified with,
Yes.
because it is attached to the ego, which is the forgetfulness.
Yeah. And so there's like, obviously there's like a double whammy there, right? Of like, how can I remember what I am where
All I've ever
when
known.
when overlaying what I am is one, a veil of forgetfulness, the ego, as you just beautifully explained. And then two, attached to that is the belief that I'm completely worthless. So how can I remember that none of that is actually true when there's these two overlays going on? And this is how this is what I'm learning is I can see it now. It's like this entire third dimensional matrix that we're existing in, and then we're learning how to energetically break free from, has kept us trapped and small and encapsulated in these separate little isolated bubbles and programs that we're repeating again and again and again, living out these experiences. But they're all coming, we're having the experience as this consciousness, right? We're moving through life as a human, but we don't realize that there's this overlay, there's a filter going on that we're seeing the world through. It's that old saying is like, oh, you see the world through rose colored glasses, which is like a great thing. But there's a million different glasses that we're actually wearing, and we don't realize it because we're always wearing them. And that this is what I'm seeing now is like true spiritual awakening. And this is what Rachel has guided me through and guides everybody through, is it's about actually dissolving the layers that are attached to your ego, to allow you to connect back to what you really are. And if you're not actually doing that real energetic work, it's not actual true spiritual awakening. And she's teaching us on a real deep level how to identify and understand what streams of consciousness are actually flowing through us. Is there a filter? And most often than not, there is. Like it's not that we're like, oh, well, sometimes we're in our programming and sometimes we're, just our natural divine self. If you haven't really done the energetic work to truly remember who you are and clear out all your programs and wounds, you're probably coming from your programs and wounds. There's going to be different overlays. And so we really have to do the work to undo all of that. And it's a process. It's an energetic process that we have to go through in order to break free from the quote unquote third dimensional matrix, these overlays, all these programs and wounds, these filters, which are governing our lives completely unconsciously. And we believe them to be true, to be able to tap back into what we really are. And that I don't fully know and understand. I see, as I'm learning about all this, I'm starting to see so many more psychic visions about when Rachel's teaching. And as I said, I'm exploring more about different cosmic origins and that kind of stuff. And I'm having so many more like visions in my mind about how this all works. And none of that, even that didn't happen a few years ago. I mean, before I even started Rachel's work, I didn't even believe that, psychic gifts existed, which is quite the change to where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and if we weren't born into a patriarchal world that is governed by parasitic, I don't even want to say forces, parasitic entities that have completely destroyed our species, right, and enslaved us in so many ways, we would come in with the ego, which is the veil of forgetfulness, but we would be guided in a more enlightened world by our parents who have become enlightened to show us the way, right? To guide us back to our divinity so that we can have a divine soul experience as a human in this temporary physical reality. But we were born into a prison enslaved planet where everything is designed so that you attach to all of your stuff, you identify with all of your stuff, and all of those things are unprocessed, trapped in your body, and then we become these things that aren't the truth of us, right? And so this mission that a lot of us came into in this incarnation, I mean, really think about this for a second, really feel into this. We volunteered to come into this incarnation in an evil, enslaved, unawakened world to awaken truly. And even when you quote unquote awaken, right? Because everyone talks about the first time they awaken, it's a spiritual awakening, but even that I've learned, like, what does that even really mean? What, just because you awaken to something doesn't mean that you're truly, truly awakened, right? But you have this like mini awakening, the first initial one. And even in that, a lot of people get lost. There's all of these, there's so much at play here where these entities, Rachel teaches a lot, like they're masters of spirituality. They know how to work with energy. And so even on the path of many souls probably who came here to really do the real work have veered off, have, fallen off, are going down paths that are not truly awakening. That in itself trips me out. And then there's the souls who are really doing the real work on themselves. And then so witnessing you as you're, taking all of this in, and you're also, diving. The way Danny works is like he'll dive into something and he'll just go to the deep end. And then he'll come out like probably a week or two later and he's like full of just brand new knowledge and wisdom. And you're in that period right now where you're diving so deeply into the cosmic origins and like really letting that integrate. And I can see it expanding you, and I can see it and I can feel it awakening you in a whole different way. And there is so much liberation to what you're experiencing, because it's
Yeah.
allowing you, and how beautiful and divine it is that it's coupled with what Rachel is teaching us about mastering energetic detachment, that now it's this other layer of, oh, I'm learning all of this. And as I'm integrating all of this awakening to who I really am, it's allowing that detachment to like move faster in a way.
Yeah. And spiritual awakening is a process. It's not like, oh, I've awakened, or my first awakening. It's like, no, it's a process. And then you can be completely unconscious, and this was me for a number of years, and then you can go through I had a spiritual awakening where I started to wake up, and then that's the beginning. That's not the end point. That's the beginning point for the rest of your life. And where, as you said, where people get lost is they either go down the wrong path, or they think, oh, that's it, I've awakened, I've arrived, here I am. And it's like, nah, like this is the beginning, like let's keep going. And yeah, I tend to go down the rabbit holes. I really enjoy it. I think it's when I'm feeling very guided to something. I get so into things. But even today, I was like, nope, you've listened to a little today. I felt very mature within myself, and I was like, you don't need to do any more. Just sit in presence, or sit in silence, or put something else on for a little bit. You don't need to constantly be going in. And definitely in the past, I had a tendency to run programs where I would just go all the way in, and it would be to the point where it was kind of like it would consume me, where I'm trying to consume, and it would kind of consume me, and I would lose my consciousness in some capacity trying to gain it, which is an ironic paradox. But I'm at a place now where these things come up and I feel, oh, I'm really being pulled to look at this certain thing, and I'm not falling kind of into that like overconsumption. It feels very, where I'm at right now, it feels really balanced. And I'm taking the time when something hits me real deeply to integrate it and really sit with it and allow myself to feel all the different nuances of what's there. And that's the main thing that I'm moving through with some of the, as you said, this is like this beautiful thing happening at the same time where we're learning this mastering energetic detachment. So I'm starting to detach more from what I thought I have been most of my life. And then at the same time, it's allowing deeper remembrances to start to spontaneously open up, little things that movies that I'm like, I've got the inkling to watch this version. This was one that came out 2018 Robin Hood, and within the first 15 minutes something's in there and it's activated. Robin Hood 2018 one, it wasn't even like one of the good ones, right? One of the newer ones. Activated a beautiful healing, bringing up like old memories and remembrances. Like, oh wow, there's certain things which the universe will bring into you on this path when you're authentically awakening to, they're just little, like it turns into a game. This is when it gets fun, really fun, is when it's a game and there's little clues and you're supposed to go here and watch this thing and gain this little key, and then you got to take this thing over here, and that's what it feels like is happening at the moment, is things just start seem to be kind of opening up, and I'm remembering more. And it's not a memory in terms of like oh, you know, I have this mental image, and yes, there is that sometimes, but it's more of like a deeper feeling, a remembrance of, oh, I'm something way more than I thought that I was all of my life. I really thought I was a piece of shit, and maybe that's not actually the case. That was just a program, an energy that I absorbed from my upbringing, and then I've been playing it out through my life, and none of it's true. It's not true for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, people who are doing the real work, the whole time what you're doing is remembering more and more and more, right? The work is well, let me take a look at all of the programs that have made up my shadow self, which is not anything of what I am. And we've all attached to it, we've all identified with it, and then we all walk around with all of this stuff, fear of failure, worthlessness, people, whatever it is that you run. And when you do the work and you start coming back, right? And that's why it's so crucial from the moment that you're a student. And what Rachel teaches is learn how to connect to your heart, which is the direct connection to your divinity, right? That's the truth of you. And the work that we do is every time you get triggered and you start going into and identifying all the stuff that's running and you connect to your soul, you are bringing the truth of you. And if you're connected to that, which is all powerful, which is unconditional love, which are all the ways, right? Then what's all of this stuff that's kept me so powerless and still kept me so weak and fragile and all this stuff? And there comes the detachment and the remembrance, oh, I'm not this.
Yeah. Yeah, I asked Rachel the other day in a class. It's a program that I've run all my life. It's like I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am. And I said to her, I was like, I struggle with this program, and she's had this brilliant response, and she was
She's like,
like,
who
"Where?
struggles with it? Who's that
Who?
that's struggling with it?"
Who's the one struggling with it?" So I don't know. And she was saying basically the teaching was, it's your ego. It's only the ego that struggles with knowing who it is. Divinity doesn't struggle with that.
Yeah.
It can only be from the ego. But when I was asking the question, it was coming from a place where that filter was overlaying my consciousness. So I couldn't fully, I can't fully conceptualize that who I really am in terms of like the soul essence that's infinite and abundant and unconditional love, when there's an overlay that's saying, I don't know who I am, I'm afraid to go into the unknown, blah 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 blah. Right? So when that program is running, I can't see beyond that. And this is how our programs create our reality, and how we've been so enslaved and trapped. That when we have these wounds, these programs, we literally create our lives from these things. And they're not who we are. They're not who we are.
Yeah. And then you look around your reality and you're like, well, this sucks. Right. And then we fall victim to it. And this is never going to change. And it's always going to be like this. And it's the teaching of, no, you're creating everything that you're experiencing at all times, because it's coming from what you choose to identify and attach with. And that in itself is this moment of, oh shit, so I have to take accountability for all of this. I have to be responsible. And so a lot of people run away from that, because that means you got to do the real work, right? You can't stay trapped in being a victim. You can't stay trapped in of like, well, it's so hopeless and it's, and all of this stuff. It's like, there is no more excuse anymore when you start to understand that what you really are, the remembrance of you, is you are a fractal piece of creator, which means you're a creator being, which means you create it all.
Yeah.
So the work is, what do you want to create? And then how do you actually create from a place that isn't your programs?
Yeah. And just elevating our consciousness to the first way of oneness, the way of responsibility, I've really found allows you to start stepping into the role of the creator. When I take responsibility for everything in my life, I'm stepping away from the old world, which is mom's going to do it, dad's going to do it, someone's else going to take care of me. God's going to do it. The government's going to do it. They're not going to do it. You're going to do it. Why? Because I am the way of responsibility. That's why, because I am the creator. And when we shift into that place of power, that's when we start to actually activate the God that we are. That's when we activate our own true personal power, is in that first way, just the first one, right? And there's 20 of them. So imagine what we can become when we choose to become all 20. But if we just stick with that first one, it's like, I always see it as like, you got to turn around the ship, do a complete 180, because all we've ever learned is, someone else is going to take care of it. This is the immature child. And when we take responsibility for it, that's when things start to shift. Major time.
Yeah. And the moment you decide to become that first way, now we're talking, and now we're moving, and now we're on the path of creating something that you truly want, right? Creating a new earth that is just filled with harmony. That is harmony. That is harmonious. And it's like, I have these moments where I'm like, how dare I run an avoidance program, or how dare I run an escapism program, when number one, I came here to create a new earth. And then number two, I sit here and I, cry so much about animals, which I do. And then I run these programs and I attach to them and I identify with them. Like, how dare I, when I know too much to allow that to happen? And those are the times of like, all right, I am the way of responsibility, so become responsible. And then it's like, I get this like jolt up my butt. I'm like, all right, let's go do the work. Because you can't say you want something different if what you're choosing to identify attached to is the old thing.
Yeah. If you're just choosing to stay to the old thing, then that's where you're going to stay at, and that's where you're going to create, and that's where you're going to vibrate at. And wherever we're vibrating at is what we're creating.
Yeah.
And I'd love to share one of the like podcasts that I was listening to recently. There was this quote on there that really stuck in me, and I'll try and remember it right now. And if I butcher it, I apologize. But it was something on the lines of like, humanity isn't going to awaken by like disclosure or exposing different things. It's going to awaken through resonance. And it really hit me, because the first time that I heard Rachel on a podcast about 4+ years ago, I didn't understand at all what was happening. And I realize now that there was something about the words that she was speaking at that time, the vibration that she was at, was able to weave its way through my programs, weave its way all the way through all those different filters, and pierce directly into my soul, and caused such a deep resonance. And I know, Ellie, this is the exact same story for you. Something that resonated so deeply within me that I knew she had the answer. I've been searching for answers. I knew whatever it was, I could not explain. I couldn't pinpoint. I'd listened to this lady on a like 3-hour podcasts. I couldn't pinpoint what it was. I just knew deep within myself, she's got the answers, and I really want to find them too. Like, I want to learn from this person. And I'm realizing now that this is how this whole awakening journey on a collective level is going to happen. It's not going to be by, people raising our level of awareness of the horrific things. And we do need to know, going down all the rabbit holes of finding out these different things. It's where we're vibrating at, and then that frequency resonating in somebody else, and then remembering on some deep level, oh my God, it was like when I first heard her, it popped me out of some level of unconscious illusion. And that's what we're all doing on our own unique journey. And when we all do that, over the span of, this phase that we're in right now as a collective, that's when we all awaken and we all remember. And I truly don't believe at our core human beings are bad. I truly believe, and not even believe, because believe's the wrong word, feel the beauty in a human being. But because of the world that we've grown up in, there is so much evil. And there are people out there, and this is something that I've had to realize, there are people out there that are so lost in the separation and the illusion that they have chosen the side of evil. And that's just what they've chosen. It doesn't mean at their core that's who they are, but it is who they are and how they're showing up in the world. And the work is where am I showing up in those ways? And how can I heal them and elevate my consciousness so I don't resonate at that frequency?
Yeah. And there was this woman that I listened to for years and years and years. And she was someone that really, her whole, everything that she ever talked about was revealing, truth about what's really going on behind the evil veils, right? And for those of you who don't know, it's evil. There's a lot of, you couldn't even fathom the kind of evil that's happening right now. And I started to see that she was revealing all this stuff, and all of her audience believed that they were awakening because there was all this evil being exposed. And I started to see and understand, and what? So we know that there is a kind of evil that is unfathomable, but you're trapping people in intense amounts of fear and anger, and like there's like definitely like violent comments and things like that. That's not going to change this world. What's going to change this world is I see all of that. Okay. I know that exists. And then what do I have to start transforming and alchemizing within myself that contributes to why the hell that exists in the first place? That's the real work. So don't get trapped there, because that in itself is a trap. There's so many low energies in just the knowing of that. The step for you is, now that I know that, what can I do so that no longer exists? And that's the work that you have to go in and do on your own. And Rachel always teaches true awakening is awakening to every single program that I run that's been created as a result of being someone of patriarchy, of separation consciousness, who has mastered that. Seeing every inner child wound, seeing every single trauma, everything, and bringing your light to it. That's true awakening. And I'm really starting to feel and see and witness that it is happening on a global level more than ever before. And, just to bring a little bit of astrology into this, the next, like this entire year, and I think next year, even going into maybe the next year after that, there's an intense amount of Aries energy, a lot of huge transits happening in the sign of Aries. And Aries is all about self. It's about leadership. It's about, there is no more excuses. It's time. It's go time. Go. That's the energy. And is going to light a fire in all of us. And the choice that we will all have to consciously make is, as the fire burns, will you allow it to guide you into what you're being called to do and what you're being called to become? Because the world needs us souls who really came here to do it for real, and to stop running all this stuff that keeps us trapped in where we are.
Great way to end it. Love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful outro. Yeah. So if you want to remember who you are, dissolve all your shit. It's that simple. And if you want help with that, that's exactly what MSU was created for. And that's the exact work that Ellie and I and our whole team are here to support you with. So if you're interested in doing that, head to mastersofselfuniversity.com and you can learn more about what it is that we offer and how we guide people on this incredible journey of remembering who we are. Until next time, team. Bye.
Bye.